This is a world that belongs to swords and magic, where the strong rule. A continent called the Continent of Heroes. Currently, there is a massive war going on here, as the 100 demons challenge all races absolutely. Under the devastating power of the Demon Queen, the attacks of the demon armies of various races collapsed one by one. Before long, only humans were left standing. However, with the rebellion within the human river, the last line of defense of the king's city was also destroyed. The humans announced their defeat. With that, the Demon Queen, who was called the strongest in history, Elizabeth, officially ascended the throne in this world, becoming the only king here. In the city of the Human King, Master Barrow and the human crown prince Malfoy were in the ruined room. Master Barrow said that Elizabeth should not think that she really won this way. The future is still on the human side. The legendary hero will defeat her completely. But Malfoy immediately attacked her and kicked her to the ground. He asked Master Barrow to understand the situation. Now his lordship was not asking for his opinion, but ordering him. And he asked Master Barrow to understand. Malfoy was a human traitor who killed his father and welcomed the enemy. In vain, Master Barrow regarded him as a legendary hero and cultivated him. Malfoy was about to strike back using his demonic powers. He said, "Nonsense. Since Master Barrow misses his useless father so much, you will send him to meet him now." But the Demon Lord asked Malfoy to stop. Malfoy stopped his attack right in Master Barrow's face. Elizabeth said, "You said the future will be on the human side. He's bound to fail." She had 1,000 ways to make him suffer more than die. The sight she saw with her future vision was when the legendary hero drew the sacred sword. It was the final day of the demon race's reign. The sacred sword was the sword stuck in the altar stone in the Great Hall. Elizabeth will never tell him. She will never betray humans. Master Barrow looked very scared. The legendary hero who pulls out this sword will get the qualification to challenge Elizabeth. He also held the tip of the sacred sword. He thought this was really interesting. He would be waiting for her arrival in this place. The first year under Elizabeth's reign, the kingdom was protected by an army of demons and humans led by Malfoy. But in the second year of Elizabeth's reign, Malfoy disappeared. Time goes on, the third and fourth years of the troops protecting the kingdom continued to decrease and get less and less. Until the 5th year, it was seen that no one was guarding the kingdom door. Finally, in the 15th year under Elizabeth's reign, the kingdom's doors opened and people were free to enter and leave the kingdom. In the morning in the kingdom, humans and demons were busy trading. There was a demon greeting a human named Peter. Today the demon beef in his shop was of good quality. He asked Peter to continue to support his business. Peter also said that he would continue to support his shop because all the customers praised the ingredients in his house. There was a demon who was in a hurry because he was almost late. Today there was an audition for the male lead, and it was not to be missed. Under the absolute rule of the Demon Queen, all ancient rules and inequalities between different races were cancelled. Everyone could coexist peacefully. Without infighting, everyone lived happily and developed their talents. Before long, the hero continent entered a golden age like never before. Many people were seen protesting. Even fearing that the rare peace would be destroyed, there was also an anti-hero alliance that strongly opposed the arrival of legendary heroes. Inside the Demon Palace, former Human King City, Elizabeth was seen gathering all the important people in her government. She asked about the legendary hero. Is there still no news about it? The minister of the fairy race, Twala, said that the fairy race had mobilized all the trees and insects to search for it, but still found no trace of the legendary hero. The minister of the dwarf race, Heimerdinger, also said that the dwarf race is not very good at collecting information, but based on the centralized feedback from various weapon shops, there is also nothing suspicious. The human race minister, Aristotle, said in his opinion, even if the hero really appeared, he just hoped that he could fight them all with his own strength. There was absolutely no need to be afraid. The demon race minister, Jim, felt that Aristotle didn't know anything because he had just come. The Demon King was not afraid of the legendary hero. Instead, the Demon King was looking forward to his arrival. To deal with the prophecy, the Demon King had studied all kinds of magic books and martial arts. The minister of the Magoni race of people said that as long as the Demon King wanted to, he could turn the entire hero continent into ashes in an instant. The minister of the fairy race blamed Barrow for being stupid for talking about visions of the future. It was all just nonsense. With the reign of the Demon King, it was a blessing for all of them. The legendary hero should just die. There was someone protesting asking to fight the hero. The minister of the dwarf race wondered why, when talking about Barrow, he immediately came here. Carrying a sign that reads, "Fight the hero," Barrow supports the Demon King's rule and will fight the arrival of the legendary hero. Barrow is the former high priest of the human kingdom and is now the chief fan of the Demon Queen and the chairman of the legendary Anti-Hero Association. Suddenly, Elizabeth released her power and immediately caught Barrow. With a slightly annoyed face, she asked Barrow to explain well to her where the hero of the prophecy was. Barrow was very scared. According to him, visions of the future were not always accurate either, when the object was a being far beyond the understanding of the prophecy. Malfoy said that what Barrow said was true. Using that boring prophecy for Elizabeth was already a big insult. Elizabeth didn't need to care. Malfoy recently had new research. Suddenly, Elizabeth attacked Malfoy very strongly. She asked Malfoy to stay away from her. Malfoy moved away from Elizabeth as his face was badly injured by Elizabeth's attack. Suddenly, Elizabeth got angry and said that they were all a bunch of trash. Then she attacks Barrow, punching a hole in the wall and trapping Barrow there. Elizabeth the King has reached the top of the world, mastering the power of the world. She waits for a legendary hero to challenge her, and then the stepping stone of her fame. She had studied all the ancient magic books of the hero continent, and after many difficulties, he created doomsday magic to wait for the legendary hero's challenge. But until now, she couldn't find the legendary hero. Elizabeth held the sacred sword. The royal ministers panicked. They felt that the Demon King would pull out the sacred sword and asked her not to pull out the sacred sword. Elizabeth said if the hero did not come to her, then she would come to the legendary hero. She tried with all her might to pull out the sacred sword. The demon minister took out a protective move to protect them from the Demon King's power. The minister of the fairy race felt that the Demon King was really going to steal the sacred sword. The Demon King used all his strength to pull out the sword to make a very powerful explosion in his castle. Finally, Elizabeth was able to pull out the sacred sword. She said who said only legendary heroes could pull it out. Suddenly, Elizabeth got the power to see the future. The vision went to a place far away from her kingdom, and there was a house in that place. It turned out that the legendary hero was hiding there. Elizabeth immediately used the move Abyss magic. It was a teleportation magic. She planned to go to the legendary hero. Seeing that the Demon King was about to leave, Malfoy asked her to take him so that he could continue to serve him by his side. But when he wanted to grab Elizabeth, Malfoy couldn't hold her. Malfoy looked sad that the Demon King didn't take her away. In Beginner's Village, there was a man who was exhausted. It turns out that he is a farmer. He thinks farming is really fun. And he was the legendary hero. His name is Leping. In the real world, he is just an ordinary office worker. His life is flat. Doesn't like playing games or watching anime. The only fun is probably watching his favorite short videos on his way to work. Leping was watching how to farm properly. Then he scrolled his phone screen and a short video about a recipe for making noodles appeared. He scrolls back to his phone screen and a video of a man holding a rabbit appears. He was very jealous of the people in the video. He wished he could live like this too, like it was so good. Suddenly, Leping came to the magic world where Elizabeth was, and Leping looked very panicked as to why she was here. Under the guidance of the beginner system, she slowly learned basic survival skills here. Actually, she didn't know anything about this different world at all, but that was okay. Wasn't living in the countryside like this what he wanted. It also felt like his body was healthier than when he was working. Then came a message telling Leping that after this novice training period, he was fully qualified to leave the novice village and asking him to start his adventure immediately. Leping felt why should he leave here so soon? Would it be all right? A message appeared after leaving the novice village. He would meet all sorts of other people in this world. He could learn various sword and magic skills from them and become a legendary hero and kill the Demon King. But Leping didn't want to kill any Demon Kings at all. Can't he continue to live here? He couldn't continue to be here. His mission was to kill the Demon King. The longer he left the novice village, the higher the Demon King's difficulty level. He was required to learn sword skills and magic as a legendary hero. He could get treasures in various encounters. The system kept urging Leping to leave the novice village and start adventuring. But it seems that other than nagging, he can't do anything to him. What do you care about the Demon King? He just wants to continue living like this. Because here was a special time barrier that could hide the novice village completely for safety. And within the barrier were days that were much more than 24 hours of perceived time, which also allowed him to do more things he liked. Ping started farming, hunting animals in the forest, making wooden chairs, and meditating. Everything he did improved his skills, although he still knew nothing about swords and magic. But for him, who didn't go out adventuring, those things weren't important at all. Through redeeming points from beginner tasks, he slowly built his dream country house from scratch. Until one day, something unexpected happened. The system suddenly crashed and then disappeared. It seemed that Ping had finished farming. He was hungry because he had been busy working all day. It looks like the firewood in his house has started to run out, so he wants to prepare firewood first to increase supplies in his house. It turned out that he forgot to bring an axe to chop firewood. Suddenly the sky darkened and lightning appeared. Ping looked up at the sky, and it was very dark, and there was a huge wind and thunder. He couldn't believe what was coming from up there. It was Elizabeth, the Demon King. Finally she found Ping, the legendary hero who would defeat her. Ping ran quickly to his yard, because suddenly it was going to rain heavily, while he had previously dried clothes and salted fish, and he tried to get them before the rain fell. Elizabeth looked confused at Ping's behavior. Ping was finally able to pick up the fish and sausages he had been drying. It's a good thing he was on time, otherwise the dried fish and sausages would have rotted in the rain. Wankai, an electronic pet dog for human companionship. He asked Wankai to stop. As it was going to rain, he asked him to come inside the house. But Wankai wouldn't go inside and kept barking. Ping looked up at the sky. He said to Wankai, "What is that thing in the sky?" Elizabeth said that Ping was quite stupid. How could she dare to call him something? Ping apologized to Elizabeth because he didn't see it clearly. She wondered why someone would suddenly ask to join. Shouldn't the beginner's village be safe? But Elizabeth asked to confirm something. She immediately attacked Ping. Ping tried to dodge Elizabeth's attack. Meanwhile, Elizabeth just watched silently. Suddenly the sacred sword that Elizabeth was carrying flew towards Ping and was immediately grasped. He was shocked why there was suddenly a sword in his hand. Ping tried to remove the sacred sword and said why something suddenly flew into his hand. He didn't know what was going on. The Alpha Holy Sword recognition could not be wrong. Elizabeth looked annoyed. Ping's magic detection ability was very low. Even ordinary soldiers exceeded it. Elizabeth wondered if she was hiding her true power. She is Elizabeth, the most powerful demon queen in history, and today she will destroy Ping. Ping was very scared. Why would the demon queen come here, even though he has never been out of this place? He asked Wankai to be quiet and not to provoke Elizabeth. Elizabeth took out her magic called Abyss Magic and wanted to attack Ping with her magic. Finally, Ping understood, as the system said the meeting between the legendary hero and the demon queen was inevitable. Even if he never left the novice village, Ping felt that if so, then there was no need to say much. He directly threw away the sacred sword and ran straight to the house. All this time he was just a lousy rookie, but the final boss had already come knocking on the door. So other than accepting his fate, what else could he do? Maybe he should be satisfied. Ping had no regrets, knowing that he could spend a happy time here. In the end, let him return to zero with his house. Finally, he went into the house and closed the door and locked it. Elizabeth was annoyed. What did he mean by smiling at her earlier? Elizabeth thought Ping told her to come with everything she had. She seemed unaccepting and said that Ping was very arrogant. She immediately attacked the house with full force. Wankai seemed to be analyzing Elizabeth's attack, but her attack was too big and powerful. Finally, Wankai finished analyzing Elizabeth's attack. Then Wankai took out his battle weapon and immediately attacked with full force the boulders until they shattered. Wankai continued to bark at Elizabeth. As Elizabeth expected, the legendary hero dared to be arrogant in front of her. It turned out that Ping relied on advanced magic tools with awakened consciousness. But in front of Elizabeth, all this was just rubbish. Suddenly the clouds let out a tremendous thunderbolt, as if Elizabeth was unleashing her power. She already had no interest in investigating Ping further, and will end everything here. Elizabeth casts earth recasting magic, a very powerful magic. A huge orb with a lightning strike. Wankai analyzed Elizabeth's attack, and after a while he finished analyzing the attack. Wankai took out a black magic ball. After the magic was ready, he immediately shot the magic at Elizabeth. But Elizabeth was able to avoid the attack. It turned out that Wankai's attack was not to attack Elizabeth, but to attack Elizabeth's big ball magic. With confidence, Elizabeth said, "Perish obediently along with this land." Elizabeth's big ball magic was lost because of the attack from Wankai. Elizabeth didn't expect her apocalyptic magic to be obliterated. She wondered what exactly Li Ping was doing in the house. Li Ping was in her room, and she was ready to be visited by the Demon Queen. Elizabeth went downstairs, and she approached Wankai. She looks at Wankai with a sardonic gaze, and Wankai shows his angry face. She laughed at Wankai instead. He never expected that he would be the one to look down on her in the end. But don't be too arrogant, so far he had only used less than 30% of his strength. Wankai is a bastard and insolent. Elizabeth will show him what real terror is. She immediately attacked Wankai with full power, which caused a huge explosion. It turned out that Li Ping had been asleep for an hour. When he woke up, he wondered if he was dead. But he was still in his house. He left his room and tried to leave the house because it seemed quiet outside. She tried to open the door. But that Demon Queen, she wouldn't be waiting for him out there like a madman. Li Ping tried to peek out from behind the door. There was a person in the dust. And it turned out to be the Demon Queen who was holding Wankai's head. It seemed that Wankai had been defeated by Elizabeth. Wankai's head was destroyed, and there were many cracks. Li Ping didn't expect that Wankai had been defeated by Elizabeth. Elizabeth immediately threw Wankai. With a very scary demonic aura, Elizabeth apologized to Li Ping because she had destroyed this magical tool that she was so proud of. Li Ping looked panicked. He didn't matter if Elizabeth had destroyed the Wankai, and he wanted to invite her to sit down and talk nicely. Elizabeth was desperate to kill Li Ping. But this is unbelievable. She can push Elizabeth to her limits. Was this the end that was foretold for her? Elizabeth finally fell because she was exhausted. Li Ping, who didn't know what was going on, was worried about her and asked if she was okay. He also approached Elizabeth and tried to wake her up. But Elizabeth's demonic power faded and disappeared. Li Ping looked panicked. Elizabeth's demonic power faded, making her lose all her clothes. Seeing Elizabeth not wearing clothes, Li Ping immediately nosebleed. Finally, Li Ping took her home and dressed her and let her rest. But Elizabeth was seen in handcuffs. And finally, she woke up. She felt unacceptable because she was the Demon Queen but suffered a humiliating defeat. Instead of taking the opportunity to kill her, Li Ping imprisoned her. Did she do it to show her power to the world? Elizabeth tried to summon her strength to remove the handcuffs, but she couldn't get the cuffs off. She had never seen an artifact of this legendary class. She wondered how much power Li Ping was still hiding from her. These strange things were definitely not simple. It seemed like this legendary hero was much more evil than she had imagined. She had underestimated him too much. Li Ping entered the room and was seen bringing food for Elizabeth, and when he entered, Elizabeth was already awake. Elizabeth said if she wanted to kill her, don't expect her to beg for mercy. The Demon Queen is really scary. But this was Li Ping's only chance to survive, and he had to seize it. Li Ping asked to just talk about it without killing each other. As for the handcuffs, he was just using them as a precaution because Elizabeth was really scary. But he changed his words back and said that Elizabeth was great. Elizabeth looked confused by Li Ping's words. Li Ping was sure there must be a misunderstanding between them. He would uncuff her now and they could talk. In Elizabeth's mind, Li Ping seemed to be belittling her. Right from the start, Elizabeth had misunderstood. She thought she was tough enough to challenge the legendary hero. With a scowling face, Li Ping said if Elizabeth wanted to stay alive, then she had to fulfill Li Ping's request. Elizabeth seemed unhappy that Li Ping dared to threaten the Demon Queen. Li Ping finally opened the handcuffs. He had opened his handcuffs to prove that he had no bad intentions, so as promised, he asked to speak. The current situation was very unfavorable for Elizabeth. A strong person knows when to bend and when to stretch. She would endure it for now, but Li Ping would regret his arrogance later. With a scared face, Li Ping asked Elizabeth to rest. He was sure everyone was curious why he didn't kill the Demon Queen when she fainted. In this world of sword magic, it was perfectly normal for her as a Demon Queen to have awakening abilities. Killing chickens and fish for soup was one thing, but she would never be able to kill a person. But resolving the conflict between the legendary hero and the Demon Queen didn't have to be about killing and fighting. As long as he could show that he posed no threat to her and became her friend, he could continue to live happily. Elizabeth felt that Li Ping was mocking her because he was laughing so loudly. Li Ping picked up Wankai. He thought Wankai was the most hero right now. Elizabeth was suspicious of the food brought by Li Ping. She thought that the food brought by Li Ping was his most powerful magic tool. Li Ping was confused about what Elizabeth meant. This food was just a small thing she made while living here because she was bored. But she agreed with Elizabeth's words, saying that the wanke was developed by her recently. Elizabeth looked at Leping suspiciously. She thought Leping had lost the protection of his strongest magic tool, like losing his right arm. The balance of power had tilted in Elizabeth's favor. This time, it was her turn to be careless. After releasing the handcuffs, she could secretly use the abyss magic, infinite magic, to recover quickly. Elizabeth apologized that she had damaged Leping's belongings. She prepared to attack Leping. Right now, this is the best time for her to finish off the legendary hero. Leping said his body could not be repaired. He also opened a cupboard. It turned out that there were a lot of wankai robots made by him. He had made a lot of preparations here, so Elizabeth didn't need to worry. Elizabeth was shocked to see that many robot dogs. Leping took all the robots and inserted a chip into their heads. Then the wankai robot came back to life. She said it was nice to have a friend, but the wankai lizard was naughty, so she usually only activated it at home. Elizabeth felt that Leping and wankai were smiling evilly at her. She didn't accept it and didn't believe it. But she smelled a rather interesting fragrance, making her wonder what it was. Leping said he saw her faint, so he made food to warm her up. He cooked regular meat porridge and regular dumplings for her. According to Elizabeth, only the weak need to eat. She had reached a transcendent state and didn't need these things. But she seemed interested in the food and wanted to try eating it. Suddenly her stomach rumbled like she was starving too. Leping said this was all made from vegetables and grains that he had grown himself, completely natural, and he wanted Elizabeth to try it. He thought that resolving the conflict with delicious food would definitely work. Elizabeth finally tried the food he made. She tried one regular dumpling. She was silent as she ate the dumpling. But Leping was a little scared because Elizabeth was just silent, although she was confident in her cooking. Would the demon queen with her status appreciate the food from this new village? Elizabeth took another dumpling and ate it. It turned out that she finished all the dumplings until there were no leftovers. She really liked those dumplings. With each bite, the meat juice exploded like fireworks in her mouth. The flavor was natural and unadorned. It also contained a high concentration of magical energy. This world actually had a delicacy like this. It was so delicious that the demon queen couldn't bear to swallow this last bite. When she swallowed that last bite, she was suddenly shocked. The taste was overwhelming, like a volcano erupting. It turned out that the dumplings were very spicy for her. It made his stomach ache. He asked Leping what he had added to his food. Leping panicked because he added a little chili to his taste. Can't the demon queen stand spicy food? Elizabeth had expected it. With no good intentions, this evil hero imprisoned her just to use her as a research experiment. Leping wanted Elizabeth to try some of his other dishes. Eggs and lean pork porridge could clear the heat and reduce the fire. Elizabeth is still suspicious, feeding the poison on one hand and providing the antidote on the other. Playing with it in the palm of her hand, there was no way around it. This strange feeling was too uncomfortable. Finally, Elizabeth tried the porridge. When she ate it, she felt an extraordinary taste again. The taste of this porridge was so good, she felt like she was in heaven. The peaceful feeling was so comfortable. The quest to rule the world. The struggle between the demon queen and the hero. All these distractions no longer concern him. Letting go of everything. Living without burden. But it was because of this that she discovered how insignificant she really was. Elizabeth, the 3-star demon queen. She couldn't believe it, was shocked. Just by consuming food, she was transported to a new world under the influence of 2 extreme stimuli. Her strength once again increased. She also asked Leping not to pretend anymore and asked him to tell her what he really wanted. Leping only wanted them to research how the demon queen and the legendary hero could coexist. She finally revealed her true intentions. In this world, only she was qualified to be the subject of his research as a hero. Let him help her become stronger, then defeat her. Leping panicked at the sight of Elizabeth. He would continue to make delicious food to serve her. Elizabeth was very upset. A knight can be killed but not humiliated. She is a demon queen. If she wanted to become stronger, he could help her. She was also looking forward to seeing if she could defeat him. But Elizabeth didn't seem to care and said forget it. Leping felt that Elizabeth still wanted to kill him. Elizabeth stood up on her bed and asked Leping to listen to her. She could agree with his condition, but know this, she did this not out of fear but to pursue the peak of power. Leping was confused. Why should Elizabeth be afraid of him? She is the demon queen, she holds the power, and she can do anything. Furthermore, don't think she will bow her head and submit during her stay here. Her pride as a demon queen must not be violated. Otherwise, even if she has to sacrifice everything, she will destroy it. Leping agreed to the conditions given by Elizabeth, and she asked them to try to get along. Elizabeth looked at Leping suspiciously. She also said that if Leping wanted to research, please come. And if there was anything delicious, she wanted it all. Leping understood. The sacred sword of the legendary hero was seen outside the house and stuck in a piece of wood. 1 year passed. Leping was seen cutting wood using the sacred sword. He was thinking what to do. Everything had become complicated. Ever since the demon queen forcibly entered and destroyed the novice village's protective barrier, time here had gradually synchronized with the outside world. Time synchronization is not the problem. But what is disastrous is that without the protection of the barrier, the novice village has lost its concealment function and is completely exposed in the wild. And the monster that appeared nearby didn't seem to be that simple. While continuing to think, he still cut the wood and arranged it. But because of the demon queen's presence here, they didn't dare to get close. Does this mean that after the demon queen leaves, she will die? She heard Elizabeth shouting from inside the house asking her to come inside and cook, because it was time for lunch. After hearing Elizabeth's words, he immediately entered the house. Elizabeth was watching a drama on TV. Her belly looks so fat that her shirt doesn't fit to cover her belly. She was eating potato chips while watching TV. She said that the show was boring. Can't Leping get anything new out of this system? Leping said that the system was long gone, and he asked Elizabeth to eat immediately because he had finished preparing his lunch. While continuing to eat the potato chips, Elizabeth asked him to wait a moment. It was like she was using her magic, making her have little wings on her back. It turned out that she was too lazy to walk to the dining room, so she flew using her wings. She asked what kind of poison Leping put in the potato chips she ate. Elizabeth felt that she was eating more and more and getting lazier, using the guise of delicious food to paralyze her with a slow-acting poison and trying to lead her to total depravity. This was delusional. Leping explained that if the potato chips were high in calories, eating too many could easily accumulate fat, and people who ate them would naturally get fat. Elizabeth looked at her stomach and held it. It seemed that she was indeed getting fatter because of eating those potato chips frequently. Then she used her magic called negative attribute conversion, which made her thin and slim again. All the fat that had accumulated in her body had been converted into her magic power. That's amazing. It turns out that magic can also be used like that. He said that if the trick was foiled again, how would he feel? Would he be very disappointed? Leping said whatever she said was true. Then he invited Elizabeth to eat. Elizabeth looked very happy. Today's lunch was very suitable for her taste. She wouldn't hold back. She enjoyed the food very much. Leping told her to eat slowly. If it wasn't enough, he could make more, and it didn't matter if Elizabeth ate more. It looked like she would be staying with the demon queen like this for a while. Elizabeth seemed to be thinking about what Leping was saying. She felt that Leping was saying that she was still too weak, and asked her to continue to grow stronger before she was killed by him. Elizabeth looked very upset. Leping went to get some dessert for Elizabeth. That was enough. Did he really humiliate her like a pig? In this past year, she had broken through more than 10 times. She should have the ability to retaliate by now. She wanted to engage Leping in a battle of strength. Leping took something from the kolka, and it was Elizabeth's favorite pudding. Elizabeth looked very interested in the pudding. She asked Leping to bring the pudding to her immediately. Leping looked relieved. Fortunately, this demon queen was not too difficult to deal with. Having the right food can calm her down easily. There was an old man and a woman running, like they were running away. They seemed to be being chased by an evil monster. The monster seemed to be preparing to attack the grandfather. He attacked using a magic called spatial tearing. The grandfather looked panicked as the magic was getting closer and closer to him. The grandfather and the woman kept running, trying to avoid the attack. But the monster used his other magic to attack them. He used nail cage magic. The magic trapped the grandfather and the woman. The old man stood up to save the blonde girl, telling her to run into town while he dealt with the masked men. The girl cried, refusing to run away without her father. But her father was determined. He had promised his mother he would take care of them, no matter what. When the invaders arrived, one of them threw a huge fireball at them. The old man insisted on using his most powerful move to slaughter the fireball, and made one of the invaders break in half. But the others quickly reconnected themselves again, becoming like strange monsters. Evil felt stubborn, not wanting to leave her father. She used her magic to make a bow and arrow and shot at the monsters. But for some reason the arrows seemed to have no effect, unable to destroy them. His father told him to run away, saying that he couldn't fight this dark guild. But suddenly the third darkness monster rushed at the old man and swatted him with its huge sword. The old man was knocked back a few meters until he finally hit a big rock. Imagining her father like that, Evil panicked and screamed for her father. Even though he was badly injured, he still told his son to run far away to a safe place. Meanwhile, the third dark monster approached the combined monsters from before and joined them. Once the three became one, they turned into giant goo-rich columns, ready to destroy the father-daughter. The girl ran to her father's side and tried to ask the giant monster to let her father go so she could join them. Unfortunately, the girl's life doesn't seem to be in their job description. Before the monsters could destroy them, the bigger ones stomped them into the ground, making everything look very flat. When the dust clears, the girl sees that their unlikely savior is a huge mammoth, and the mammoth isn't alone. On top of the mammoth's head is a small house where a wise immortal frog lives. The immortal frog talks before telling his sister that the threat has been dealt with. Then he asked what to do with the two rescued humans. His brother has the name Ling on his head too. She's a friend of Wang Kai's robot Li Ping. Wang Kai tells them that they can't hurt the humans. Instead, he'll take them back to their master and let him take care of them. Evil can't believe that they were rescued by a really big mammoth. Moments later, we see the young girl waking up in a very strange bed. She's so confused about where she is that she remembers that her father has just been badly hit by a monster. If she doesn't get treated quickly, her father's life could be at stake. He was worried about his father and got out of bed. Then he ran outside, and when he opened the door, he was really surprised. Her worries were probably unnecessary because she was greeted with the sight of her father stretching his muscles. The blonde girl kept looking at Li Ping while complimenting his muscles. Li Ping is amazed to see fighters from other worlds with big muscles. His father told him that as a fighter, physical fitness is very important. But there are those who don't seem to care about their muscles. Li Ping asked if the fighter profession really exists in this world. If so, that's really cool. Wang Kai seemed really happy. He immediately ran around Li Ping. Elizabeth looks really upset. She kicks Wang Kai until he bounces far away. She was angry because Li Ping took Wang Kai home. She called Wang Kai a stupid dog. Then she kicked out and scolded Li Ping for bringing two strangers home to their house. Wang Kai looks really scared. He remembers the bad memories of the past, being beaten and destroyed by the Demon King. Now that he's leveled up 10 times, no one can fight him anymore. Despite the crowd, Li Ping continued to praise his father's muscles. Feeling proud, his father showed off his muscles again until his clothes were almost all off. Li Ping was surprised when his father kept looking at his muscles. But Evil was confused, saying that he just wanted to make his savior happy. Even so, he was happy to be awake. Now that Evil is awake, Li Ping tells him about the situation. Suddenly, Elizabeth teleports directly in front of Evil and asks Evil to listen to her. She warns Evil that he has to leave, in a dominating accent. She warned Evil that she had arrived first. Evil was shaking with fear at Elizabeth's superior aura. Fortunately, Li Ping managed to convince Elizabeth to let the guests come in and chat, as they rarely had guests. Finally, they entered the house. Inside, Li Ping offered homemade barley tea to the father-daughter duo, apologizing that there was nothing else to serve. Evil saw the shimmering barley tea and asked her father if it was a magic potion that could instantly heal her wound. Li Ping hung his head in shame and said it was nothing, just ordinary cold well water that he gave to his father. But Elizabeth still looks at them sarcastically. She wondered what experiments Li Ping had in mind for them, and was annoyed that she didn't think she was enough to satisfy Li Ping's desire to experiment on others. Evil's father doesn't agree with Li Ping, but he still remembers when Wang Kai brought him to Pemula village. Li Ping had also helped her with the cold well water that was full of magic energy, so she's really grateful. He wouldn't have been able to see his daughter again without Li Ping's help. Hearing her father's story, Evil wondered if she could drink something so precious. But Li Ping assured her that she didn't need to be rigid. So, with Li Ping's permission, Evil and her father drank the barley tea. When the liquid entered their bodies, bright lights suddenly flashed from their mouths and eyes. They were taken to a barley field that had no end. Just like the Demon Queen before, they felt very happy looking at the beautiful sky, free from the troubles of the world. On top of that, they both leveled up, with her father becoming a 4-star archmage and Evil becoming a 1-star archmage. They were really surprised to suddenly become stronger. The barley tea also awakened Evil's idle fairy blood, so that her ears became long like a real fairy. They were really happy to be able to experience such happiness in addition to becoming stronger. Liping offered them more tea, but Evil's father refused with teary eyes. He couldn't believe there was someone as good as Li Ping. Her thanks almost felt like torture to him. Although disappointed, Liping agreed not to give them any more. He could have offered them more food and drinks, but the problem was that Elizabeth had already stolen everything. He apologized to those who were already scared because of the lack of variety in the food he could serve. Elizabeth firmly said that everything there belonged to her, so don't even think about taking anything. Liping apologizes again to them for only being able to serve tea. Then she asked Evil's father why they were attacked. Evil's father told him that it was because of the fairy blood inside Evil. Then Evil added that his mother was an elf saintess who fell in love with his father. The problem is interracial marriage is forbidden by the elf race. Finally, Liping understood that they were being chased by monsters because the elves wanted to catch them. Hearing this, Elizabeth said it was impossible because the ban had been lifted by the Demon Queen. But in fact, since Evil's mother was forced to return to the fairy Holy Land, Evil's father took her away and hid her. Then Liping asked if the elves continued to chase them after knowing they existed. He thought it was like an otherworldly version of Romeo and Juliet. But the answer is no. Both of them survived after Evil's mother returned to the elf tribe. The one tracking them now was a messenger from the Dark Guild in the demon realm. Hearing that, Liping was suspicious of Elizabeth, until he got a scolding from the Demon Queen for being nosy to Elizabeth. Then he apologized to Elizabeth for being suspicious. But Elizabeth was still interested and asked where the Dark Guild of the Demon Realm came from and why they caught the elves. Mr. Evil said there were rumors that the Dark Guild was trying experiments to revive the Demon Queen who had joined the world in the past. Elves are one of the main ingredients, so the Darkened Voice had been chasing them ever since, until Evil, who hasn't awakened her bloodline yet, was also targeted. Liping couldn't help but be suspicious of Elizabeth. When they mentioned Elizabeth's name, she said there was no connection. Elizabeth was really upset this time. She said that she knew what Liping was thinking. Feeling wrong, she quickly apologizes. Elizabeth says she's been there the whole time, so there's no way she has anything to do with it. Evil was curious about what the two of them were arguing about, but her father stopped her and told her to keep quiet. A man knows better than to interfere in a couple's quarrel. But their story also made Elizabeth curious. It seemed that in just 1 year, there were many changes that were shocking outside. She asked who started the rumor that the Demon Queen was dead. It was revealed that she had been missing for 500 years. If she was still alive, she would have returned to the world long ago. Liping was very confused about how this could happen. Elizabeth only lived in his house for 1 year. Elizabeth asked how he died. They told her that the Demon Queen died after fighting with a legendary hero. They said the fight lasted a month. In the end, the hero died to protect the hero continent, and he died with the Demon Queen. Hearing this, Elizabeth was furious. She immediately sent her intentions to them. The father and daughter pair felt like they were in the middle of a battlefield. Evil asked what happened to them. Her father said it was the feeling of Elizabeth's killing intent. It was like throwing themselves in hot water, and they were going to die. In a firm tone, Elizabeth said the rumors were false. But Evil and her father have no choice, they must obey Elizabeth, so that they won't be killed. But before they can calm down, Liping intervenes and says that Elizabeth's words are true because she is a legendary hero. Meanwhile, the one they're talking to is the Demon Queen of Elizabeth. This information is really annoying to process. Both of them almost fainted from all the information. But seeing their reactions, Elizabeth thought that Liping had deliberately saved them to embarrass her. As if he was saying that he had captured the Demon Queen and kept her here, Liping just laughed. This upset Elizabeth so much, she broke the table in anger and got up to leave. She cursed Liping silently for saving these people to turn them around. She thinks this has gone too far. Elizabeth left and slammed the door behind her. With Elizabeth gone, Mr. Evil is finally relieved. He asked Liping what his future plans were. Liping, nervously, said she wasn't sure, and asked them to calm down first. Time fell apart when Elizabeth broke through the time barrier, until time finally adjusted itself 500 years later. That night, the two of them lie down together. Evil sees her dad and is shocked that the truth behind the Demon Queen's disappearance is that she fell in love with a legendary hero and decided to hide from the world, just like her mom and dad. Evil's father says not to compare the two of them. He also says that Lei Ping told them to calm down, maybe they're thinking about whether to forgive them or not. Evil was shocked and asked, why did he save them if Lei Ping just wanted to kill them? His father said it was the same as if he just let them in. He could just as easily kill them. The thing is, forgive or kill all depends on the mood of the hero or Demon Queen. Suddenly, a loud thud came when a very unpleasant voice asked what they were doing at night. Evil looks super scared when Lei Ping comes to their room, and she doesn't know what Lei Ping will do to her and her father. Lei Ping started chuckling as he pulled out a deck of cards and offered to play cards with them. Evil's father was just confused. Some time later, her father and daughter sat down seriously as Lei Ping explained the rules of the game. He asked them if they understood the game. Evil's father said they half understood. I don't think Lei Ping is playing for fun. Evil and her father think this is a test for them, to decide whether he'll get rid of them or not. Lei Ping started to deal out the cards. Evil looks at the haunted-looking deck of cards and asks what the name of the game is. Lei Ping was confused. He wasn't sure if they would understand the term landlord, so he just said it was Dragon Fight. Father and son were shocked. Even Elizabeth, who was watching nearby using disguise magic, was also surprised. Elizabeth also wondered what exactly Lei Ping was doing. Lei Ping explained that the two of them had to work together to slay the dragon. Then, they could decide who was the hero and the dragon from the cards they picked. There's no mistaking it. They think that this toy is like a test for them to decide whether they live or die. In their eyes, Lei Ping looks super evil while warning them to think hard when picking cards. Lei Ping takes the card first, then tells the others to hurry up and take it. Evil told them not to hesitate and asked them to hurry up and take the card. It's really suspenseful, isn't it? Wait for the rest. Evil's father immediately instructed her, don't hesitate, hurry up and get your card. Evil pulled her card, but as soon as she touched it, the world around them suddenly changed. Evil's father, whose name turned out to be Best, was shocked to look around. It turned out that they had moved to another world. After they got the card, Evil almost lost it. Just pulling the card had almost drained all her magic power. Evil apologized to her father, and he just said, it's okay, leave the rest to me. Before long, everyone had gotten their cards. Lei Ping got a pretty good card. Although there weren't many big cards, it was still a good set. He also had big and small kings. He asked them, does anyone want to be a dragon? They both said no. Looking at his cards, Lei Ping realized that he could win if he got a 4 and an ace. He asked again, are you sure you don't want to be dragons before we start? Since no one wanted to, Lei Ping ended up being the dragon. When the cards were opened, Lei Ping frowned because no one had a 4 or an ace. But Evil and Best misunderstood. They thought Lei Ping's face was frowning because they weren't satisfied with their performance. Lei Ping played the 8 card before giving Best his turn. Then, Evil's father played. As long as they can pass this test, Lei Ping will forgive them. So they must not give up. When he was about to play his card, a wave of magic came out of his body and entered his card. Playing this card is actually giving up his life force. Without further delay, Best played the Jack card. Evil looked at his father with worry, but Best told him that he was okay and to trust him. Then Evil made the pass. Other than a royal flush, a straight from 7 to Q, 3-4 with a pair of 5s, only 10 and remained. Should he break his partner or not? If he does, he'll probably play 2 and lose. Because it seemed too risky, Lei Ping also passed. Then it was Best's turn again. Best asked Lei Ping, do you really not want to play? Lei Ping replied, no. Best felt like Lei Ping was intentionally letting him keep playing so that his energy would run out. In this situation, he had to discard all his cards as quickly as possible. He pulled out a combination known as Flying Dragon. Suddenly, more magic came out of Best's body as his cards played the Flying Dragon illusion. Both of them were shocked to see the dragon. Then the Flying Dragon attacked Lei Ping using full power. Elizabeth just watched them play. It turned out that playing a combination of cards made her lose, so Best had already lost. He could have touched the legendary hero. He felt he would die soon. But when the dust settled, Lei Ping seemed to be in good health. He said, what a game. Best couldn't believe his eyes. Lei Ping asked to continue the game because he and Evil passed, so it was Best's turn. He played 3 cards, then Evil passed. Lei Ping played a 10, and they both passed. That was the beginning of the unfortunate end for them. Lei Ping suddenly played a straight, shocking the father-son pair. This time he summoned a huge wave that almost washed them both away. But in the end, they both survived the wave. Then, Liping played trio and couple, calling two gladiators on the train to attack them. Best gritted his teeth. He had nothing to fight them with. But Evil came forward to challenge Liping's cards. Best said not to play, but Evil refused. He can't always hide behind his father. He also wanted to protect his father. So he played 3 more similar cards with pairs that were bigger than Liping's cards. The two gladiators immediately attacked and unleashed their power. When the air had settled, only Evil's mount was still standing. Best checks on Evil, asking if she's okay, and she says, "I'm fine." Liping was surprised to see that they already knew how to play cards quickly. He said he had to defend his team, even if his own cards were destroyed. It's all about determination. When he's thinking about determination, Best's hand suddenly emits a green light that drains his energy, making his hand thin. But Liping isn't done yet, and now it's too late. The father-daughter duo and Elizabeth, who were relaxing in the corner, suddenly felt an unpleasant vibration. Liping pulls out the treasure, summons some comedians, and bam! There's a big opening into their world. The demon clown king came out of the big gap. Even made Elizabeth surprised, until she thought what the hell he summoned. It turned out that Liping had summoned a level 3 Supreme Clown King. The demon clown king underestimated Elizabeth, saw her magic disguise, and started swinging a knife, threatening and telling Elizabeth to be careful because he could kill her. Elizabeth was really upset. How could the demon clown king tell her to be careful? But she was stuck because this clown king was equal in power. This queen has been dehumanized and received food so far. This queen can hardly defeat the 3-star demon god. But Liping casually called the 3-star demon god. Even though Liping had taught her for a year, she casually summoned something as powerful as her, making Best and Evil desperate and apologizing to Evil for running out of energy. Evil says it's not her father's fault. It's all his fault. It's like he's upsetting Liping. Suddenly, Best starts coughing up blood, feeling like he's running out of energy. Liping was worried, thinking Best was still injured and not fully recovered. But when he took a peek at Best's card, it turned out Best had a good card. Liping thought Best had deliberately let him win because he thought Best was giving a chance to beginners. But actually Best was just nice, watching him play. He was too innocent and thought he was a champion, but actually he disturbed Best's rest. So he reshuffled his cards, canceled the Demon Clown King call, and tidied up his cards. He apologized for disturbing their relaxing time and told them to rest. Then he went to his room and sulked, apologizing again for making a scene. The father-daughter duo is still confused by this legendary hero, who is difficult to understand but fortunately can still breathe. Meanwhile, Elizabeth misses again, thinking this card game is just to show off. The real plan is to attack the Demon Queen. The next day, they were outside Liping's house to say goodbye. Liping said just a little while longer, but Best was grateful, really thanked them for their extraordinary kindness and generosity, and promised not to tell anyone about what they saw. Liping looked embarrassed. He thought it was just a little help. Best also said that after they left, they wouldn't talk about anything unnecessary. Evil held something, really happy that Liping gave them a precious gift. While laughing and scratching his head, Liping says that if he only gives ordinary barley, it doesn't matter. He gave Best a memento, a playing card that they used. Liping realizes he's not good at playing cards, so he decides to give the card to Best. Liping was sad because Elizabeth told Best and Evil to leave, and they left without saying anything. Liping was left confused. Why did they suddenly run away so fast? Elizabeth immediately told Liping to cook food for this demon queen, which Liping reluctantly agreed to. Meanwhile, Best and his son continued to struggle, running as fast as they could. Finally, the boy begged his father to stop, and Best did. Best complains. First, his business with the legendary hero show, then the drama with the demon queen. He remembered the incident last night when they were attacked and had their throats slit by the demon queen. Strangely, it didn't kill them immediately. Instead, they got a new magic necklace filled with runes. Then the demon queen asked them to leave there tomorrow and to keep quiet about the existence of the demon king and the legendary hero in Pemula village. If not, the cursed mark on their necks would drive them crazy instantly. They have no choice but to obey. Actually, the truth of the story is that the demon king who has control over the world and the legendary hero Liping are tired of the world conflict and don't want to be disturbed anymore. After a flashback, they realize that they were back at square one, with the monsters still chasing them. Best was really shocked. He didn't expect to run that far and that fast. But actually, Wang Kai helped them not to trouble Li Ping and Elizabeth anymore. Best looked around and found that the corpses of the Dark Guild apostles were still there. He was cautious because he realized that there might be high-level demons waiting for them, so they had to hurry up and get out of there. Suddenly, Wang Kai's ears perked up, feeling something approaching. But he decided not to bother this time. If he didn't want to be grabbed by Elizabeth, it was better to mind his own business. He teleported back home, just as several cloaked figures appeared in front of Best and Evil, following them. One of them was a cloakless figure, who looked like the leader of the Dark Guild, the big monster. 2-star Great Demon Spirit level. Imagining the huge gap in power, Evil persuaded his father to join them while he ran away. But Best refused, even though the child was so far apart in level. But compared to the legendary hero and demon queen, these monsters of darkness were weaker. Using a deck of cards from Li Ping, he claimed to be the Iron Master among the heroes. Best points the cards at the monsters, eliminating some of the weaker ones in an instant. This took the big monster by surprise. He had no idea that this old man could fire such a cool shot. Best said that ever since his mother was brought back to the fairy tribe, he's been afraid and always ran away from trouble. But now he realized that was wrong. If they could get out of this problem, Best promised her daughter that they would go to the fairy tribe and save her mother, just like when she was looking for her mother alone. Drawing 4 cards from the deck, Best summoned 4 powerful arrow god bombs shaped like Evil's mother to fight the monsters. The arrow gods prepared to attack with magical arrows, unleashing a series of attacks that made the dark monsters cry. Before they could even escape, 3 of them were hit by the arrow gods' bombs and destroyed, leaving only the majestic monster standing. At first, the monster was proud and tried to catch the arrow like a boss. But his arrogance caused him to die because the arrow pierced into the bone. After all the darkness monsters were defeated, the illusion of God's arrow vanished and the cards returned to the deck. Best almost collapsed because he was exhausted after spending so much energy. Evil rushed over to his father. Feeling how the called cards shook, Best realized that he was done with his work. So he accepted his new calling as cardmaster. A week later, just as Li Ping had said, the fruits in his garden began to ripen. This underworld is really cool. His method of giving hybrid fruit yields has been a success, and he enjoyed the watermelon while relaxing. He's proud of his amazing planting skills, but also lonely because there's no one to share the joy of the harvest with. Li Ping starts to think about all the cool things she's experienced in this magical world, and she's curious to know what the world is like out there. The only problem was, he felt too fragile to explore other places, so he decided to forget about it. Then, out of nowhere, Elizabeth suddenly appeared in front of Li Ping. Sensing that he was down, Elizabeth asked him what he was thinking about. Li Ping confessed that he wanted to explore, but he felt too fragile to walk alone. Picking up on the conversation, Elizabeth immediately decided to take him on a tour. Although the outside world is not as good as theirs, her attitude is too arrogant. Li Ping was so excited, he wondered if Elizabeth was for real. It would also be safer if he had the protection of the Demon Queen. When Elizabeth was drinking, she warned her to stop talking like that and change her clothes immediately. As it turned out, both of them were already wearing new clothes made by Li Ping without realizing it. Elizabeth even gave a rare compliment, saying that his cooking and sewing skills were extraordinary. Li Ping casually replied, yes, that's his talent. After checking all the items that needed to be brought, they were finally ready to leave. Not long after, Elizabeth immediately opened the transfer door to teleport to the nearest city. Li Ping was amazed by Elizabeth's teleporting skills, but he held back before they entered to give them the rules. 1. Stay together. 2. Keep your emotions in check. And 3rd, be more humble to the people they meet. Elizabeth felt that Li Ping was being too strict with her rules, which made her upset, but she agreed to comply. Although he is strict, Li Ping is not sure Elizabeth will agree to the rules he makes. But Elizabeth asked him to agree to one of her requests. Nervous, Li Ping asked what Elizabeth's request was. When they go home, Elizabeth wants him to make her a super fancy fruit pudding. Li Ping was a bit surprised for a moment, but it turned out that her request was just for pudding, so he was relieved. Elizabeth asked if there was a problem with her request. Li Ping said he would make a super delicious fruit pudding for her. Finally, they both entered the portal and arrived at the nearest town. They exited the portal and went straight to Fantasy Town, also known as Boaster Town, a fun place where people from different places gather. Li Ping's eyes sparkled as he explored the new area. It was like stepping into another world. He pointed out places like hardware stores and food stalls to Elizabeth. Elizabeth couldn't help but notice Liping's excitement as she wandered around looking at the various shops. Meanwhile, Elizabeth seemed more shocked than excited about the changes in the outside world. 500 years have passed, but the changes out there don't seem too noticeable. Liping agrees, saying that the place is not as wild as Uncle Best imagined. Elizabeth was very proud to claim credit. She explained that she had built a strong foundation during her time as ruler. Before her, everything was chaotic, but thanks to her, she made everything neat and fair. So actually, it was the Demon Queen, not the legendary hero, who saved the hero continent. Unfortunately, her bragging failed, as Liping suddenly vanished from where she was standing. Elizabeth was really upset she didn't hear his past story. Instead, she watched the young girl's teddy bear stand. It seemed that Elizabeth's achievements were not considered anything by her. Liping approached the dolls. They were very delicate, and the stitching was very detailed. Then he asked the girl if she made them. The girl nodded, then offered Liping a discount. But before they could make a deal, a jerk walked in, forbidding her to open her stall there. He kicked her table, sending dolls flying everywhere. While holding the girl, he started to threaten her, saying that his church owed protection to her ally. The other kids with the girl seemed scared to see their brother being blackmailed for money. But the girl was firm, saying they wouldn't pay because the gang had never really protected them. The jerk just laughed, saying that the Beast Gang had been keeping the area safe since last month, and if he wanted to stay safe, he had to pay tribute every month. The girl was still insistent, saying it was all a lie because the church had nuns, and if the nuns came back, they would be sorry. The asshole ignored her threats, saying he'd kick out the orphans that day and destroy the old church. Feeling unfair, Liping stepped forward and told them to stop. But as soon as the orc's attention was drawn to him, his confidence disappeared. According to Elizabeth, he was just an arrogant hero. Why would he bother messing with ordinary people again? He tried to code Elizabeth for help, but she ignored him. Without her main support, Liping felt completely defeated when the big jerk started shouting again for him to do something. He saw the large crowd that had gathered and got an idea. Loudly, he yelled at the jerk for threatening the little girl and urged the crowd to curse him. But to his dismay, the crowd didn't seem to care. The jerk laughed instead. He knew that his beast gang had already taken control of this place, so no one would come forward to help. Then his eyes searched for Elizabeth, and he gulped, as if to signify that they were both foreigners from the south. Feeling unsuccessful, Liping tried to negotiate by offering local goods from his bag. But the asshole won't accept. He orders his thugs to beat her up and drag her back to their gang headquarters to be locked up. This really upset Elizabeth. She didn't want to be locked up, even though she was already behaving like Liping's prisoner. Her anger made the sky dark, until red lightning came out in the shape of an evil face. The strange sight made the jerk panic, until he finally dropped the little girl. Worried that Elizabeth would destroy the city with her anger, Liping hurriedly tried to calm her down. He took a fan from his bag. He fans Elizabeth while telling her to calm down. It's enough to threaten these punks, there's no need to fight with them. Elizabeth attacks them with what little strength she has before finally deciding to let them go because of Liping's words. But the little girl didn't miss the show and was mesmerized by Elizabeth's strength. With her anger subsiding, the storm clouds disappeared like they never existed. The pig-faced jerk looked around, confused and scared by the sudden change in weather. He didn't know what was happening, but now he felt really bad about fighting the two of them.